how are people reacting? How would you judge that?
Well, I think the broad mass of individuals are becoming, both in the United States and elsewhere, are becoming, in fact, somewhat inured to this experience. They hear so many alerts that have occurred since 9/11 and other serious events that they tend to regard them with a certain degree of skepticism. However, in the wake of the recent UK terror plot, there is an increase in anxiety, and we would expect that after such more serious and seemingly concrete scares.
So would you say that people are almost behaving now, their reaction is more one of anger than anxiety?
I think there's both. I think that for most people it is a reaction of irritation, of anger, of frustration at what seem to be often overreactions about marginalia or trivia, a jar of Vaseline, a handbook written in Arabic, for example. However, I think on the part of the airlines, you can certainly understand their need for caution. However, it does need to be reasonable caution, and I think unfortunately following the discovery of this plot, there really is a tendency to overreact and regard relatively normal situations such as a fear of flying, a panic attack, a jar of Vaseline, a book of matches, as indicia of a terrorist attack, and that clearly needs to be better understood.
So how do you think we control, how do we deal with this kind of overreaction?
Well, I think there is two major steps that could be taken. First of all, on the part of the airlines, I think some very basic training in certain kinds of behaviors that under these conditions might be seen as a terrorist attack but are in fact quite normal needs to be done. For example, a panic attack, which is what occurred on flight 973 from Heathrow, is very easily understood if one is trained. There are certain symptoms such as heavy breathing, palpitations in the chest, fear of losing control, that a flight attendant could ask a passenger about and identify as something normal rather than a normal index of a terrorist attack. On the part of passengers, they need to do a little bit of preparation before they go to the airport to reduce frustration and anxiety and therefore these misunderstandings that occur in the air. For example, get online before your flight.
Okay, so
find out if there are any delays or regulations.
Dr. Lipman, sorry for having to interrupt you. We'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid, but thank you for your thoughts on that.
It's quite all right.
A week-long international AIDS conference being held in Toronto has ended with event organisers and keynote speakers strongly condemning the government of South Africa. The UN Special Envoy said the government's attitude towards AIDS was more suggestive of a lunatic fringe group.
The International AIDS Conference has always contained a mixture of politics and science. This year it ended on a distinctly political note. The UN Special Envoy for AIDS in Africa, Stephen Lewis, roundly condemned the government of South Africa for what he called its backward approach to the AIDS pandemic. The South African government has been criticised throughout this conference for promoting nutrition.